Hello and welcome back to the Haven Homestead Podcast, where we learn and grow together on our way to living more sustainable lives. My name is Chris, and this is episode 51. Today we're going to be talking about permaculture principles. This is the second part of our Intro to Permaculture series, and today's topic is the permaculture principles. So there are 8 permaculture principles, and we are going to cover 2 today, maybe 3. And then we'll be doing zones probably next time if Lindsay's not doing one. She's been wanting to do a episode on kids on the homestead, and so she's kind of excited to get that recorded. We might record it this week, for next week's posting, but anyhow, that's where we're at right now. So today's episode is brought to you by Lindsay's Writing. You can follow her on social media, Instagram, at Lindsay the Writer, and Lindsay is spelled Lindsay. Lindsay the Writer is how you can see hers, and she has 3 books for sale right now that you can find on Amazon, and one is called How to DIY Anything. She also has The Christmas Angel and The Thanksgiving Chase. The Christmas Angel is a cute little book about an angel who feels too small to help, and she gets to help on Christmas. And then the Thanksgiving Chase is about the family getting together for Thanksgiving and things going awry. And then How to DIY Anything is kind of a self-help thing about how to get into the mindset to do things for yourself. And we actually did an interview on that. So if any of these sound interesting to you, then head on out to Amazon, I believe, and you can find any one of those. She's also working on a new book, and it's called What to Do When the Power Goes Out. And I think we may have mentioned that a little bit on that same podcast episode where I interviewed her about her book. That is our sponsor for today's podcast. Please also head on out to havenhomestead.com, where you can see what we have going on out here and find out about our classes we have coming up. We have a beginning gardening class on the 10th of March. That's next weekend. I think there will already be a few people coming out to that were at my Intro to Permaculture class. And I also want to get some pictures of our brand new baby rabbits up there. They were just born about a week ago, and I checked on them the other day, and they all look healthy and happy. So really excited about those. And they have a blue Rex mom, and then Jafar, our black unknown heritage rabbit, unknown ancestry. People have told us that they're selling us silver foxes, and then you get back here and the rabbit matures and never turns silver foxy. Maybe he has a little silver fox in him. I don't know. Probably more like New Zealand cross of some sort. But he's very fertile, and so our new Rex mom, she kindled, and the babies look great. I'm not sure how many, they're probably seven or so. I want to get some of those pictures up on the website. If you haven't already followed us on social media, we are on YouTube. You can listen to the show, or you can watch some of the videos. I think we have 4 videos up at Haven Homestead is where you search for that on YouTube. Also, Facebook, we're Haven Homestead 2009. Instagram, we are The Haven Homestead. And Twitter, we are just plain old Haven Homestead. And please consider supporting us. You can become a patron and help keep this show rolling for as little as $1 a month. And you can just go ahead and do that by going to Patreon, patreon.com/Haven Homestead, and picking which tier you'd like to sign up for. If you do the $10 tier, then we will send you a mug or a spurtle, homemade spurtle that I make. They're kind of a kitchen tool. I believe we have them for sale on our store on the home website, so you can go ahead and check out what they are. And then when you support us through Patreon, you'll get one for being our patron, and plus you're helping other people learn more about homesteading and sustainable living. So that pays the bills, and now we're going to go on to the permaculture principles. We are, like I said before, discussing over this series the first chapter in the Introduction to Permaculture book by Bill Mollison. So right at the very first of chapter 1, it talks about there are two basic steps in permaculture. And these are really easy to remember. There's lots of steps and principles and laws and elements and functions and stuff like that. It's kind of hard to keep it all straight, but there are two main steps or two main categories. And one is the laws and principles that can be easily adapted anywhere. And the second one is practical techniques that are site dependent. So in most of these sections, we will be discussing things that are inherent to any permaculture design anywhere you go. And then we'll give you a practical technique so you can implement these things into where you live. So often people, you're saying, oh, well, you should just catch the water. And they're like, I don't even know where to start with that. If you're in the desert or if you're in the wet areas, water is an important feature in both places. When we talk about some of these things, we're going to try to talk about what is the practical technique that is where you live, where it works with you, where you live. And some of these you just have to kind of look at it and think about it, and for yourself kind of think of a pragmatic approach or solution to yourself, because it's really, if you're creative, most of these things that we talk about in permaculture can come to fruition no problem if you just make the solution yourself, because your site is going to be different than my site or any of the sites I've designed. But there are examples of permaculture in every climate, from the most harsh desert to tropics to green temperate rainforest to all across the land. I don't think there's any permaculture going on in Antarctica, but probably some like Greenland and Iceland and stuff like that. So let's get right into the first section, which is relative location. So the core of permaculture is design. So for instance, you can't think of anything all by itself. You have to think about how it interacts with other things. Take water, a chicken, and a tree. If you just have water itself isolated, it's not very useful because it's just water. And it's just water. But if you use it for things, to water animals, to water plants, to reflect heat, reflect sunshine back up, to, I don't know, there's tons of things. If you put it next to something else, so location or placement of this element is the key to permaculture. So a good design will incorporate as many elements and think about how they interact with other things, kind of like a spider graph or spider web graph, how you start with one bubble and then you put a link to two other bubbles and put those links out to three other bubbles, and you just keep on making, each one, all the interactions, and if you think of another interaction, you put that onto one of the bubbles that you've already drawn. I like making those. Some people call them mind maps, maybe, but I like to make those because they have interactions. So we'll go back to our example of water, chicken, and tree. If you draw on a piece of paper, like a triangle, and you draw at the top of the triangle the tree, and on the bottom left side you put chicken, and the bottom right side you put water, then every one of those should have more than one connection with the other two. So your tree should have at least two connections, which is going to be chicken and water. So the tree, for instance, shades the water so that it doesn't evaporate as quickly and provides food for the chicken. Now, that could be whether it actually drops nuts or whether there are bugs that are attracted to this tree or whatever the case may be. You have to just decide because it's species dependent. And the chicken scratches around the roots of the tree and helps to aerate the soil, helps to keep pests away from the tree. So the chicken's doing a job for the tree and for the water, helping the water to permeate the ground by tilling and helping the water do its job, because it has two connections too. It keeps the chicken watered and keeps the tree watered. It can also reflect heat up onto the tree. The tree provides roosts for the chicken. The chicken poops on the ground, providing fertilizer for the tree. All these three things, you have to really think about how they connect to each other to make a system. The next section in this is each element performs many functions. And I'm also going to tack on the next section, which is and is supported by elements, the same elements. So each element performs many functions and is supported by those elements. So we're making a circular connection here. A fedge, for instance, so a food hedge is called a fedge, and a food hedge can be a super useful thing. Now it can be used for instance, a windbreak. So a food hedge would be like a hedge of some sort that grows food, like a Rosa rugosa. It's a rose that grows big. It doesn't have a very flashy flower, but the hips on it are huge. They're like the size of a cherry. When you use this food hedge, if you only do one species, which isn't a good idea, I would say take the food hedge and put in the Rosa rugosa, maybe a sea berry or sea buckthorn, maybe a small crab apple or something, but that's kind of stocky. That's not really a brambly sort of thing. But as you go through and you add these brambles, maybe some blackberries in there, or maybe, I don't know, just you're doing things, and you're putting in a line, or you're putting them to stop or reflect or deflect or try to help some sort, do more than one thing. Not only provide food, but also make a windbreak or privacy from your nosy neighbors or the road, or provide a trellis for things to climb on. Maybe you grow a really spiny something so that you can plant something viney that'll grow on there and use that as a trellis so that you can harvest the thing from the viney, and then the spiky thing keeps things out from your yard, like the neighbor's cows or something. It can be fire control, provide a fire break. It could be mulch. When the leaves fall, you scoop them up and take them to the garden or to somewhere that they're used. It can be animal forage. Maybe you're using black locust or honey locust or something that you can use for a forage, animal forage. Maybe you're doing something like Osage orange that has really hard wood that you can burn. Same with locust. Maybe you're planting bamboo in to keep the ground, the water from, bamboo does all those other things too, food and privacy and erosion control and animal forage and all that stuff. When you plan something in, each element performs many functions. So when you're gonna add something, you need to think, now this thing I'm gonna add, does it do multiple things? So for instance, our rabbits at our house. Our rabbits provide manure, meat, pelts, more rabbits. Those are the things first off that, but there are more. And listen to the rabbit products episode. But those rabbits have 4, and also, when we're cleaning out the garden in the year, they're kind of a waste disposal. You can put the weeds and leftovers from plants and stuff in their cages. They gobble it up, not a problem. And a chicken does the same sort of thing. So that every element needs to perform many functions. The chickens need to be scratching. They need to be pooping. They need to be eating the bugs. They need to be doing these things that help your other things. And then these functions, so when your element performs these functions, it supports your other elements. So the chicken scratching is helping your garden with moisture penetration. When your chicken is pooping, it's putting nitrogen-rich fertilizer onto the ground. When your rabbit is time to be butchered, then that helps provide you with meat for the family. That's end product, and so that you can continue to look after the animals and things like that. I mean, everything needs, when you do a design, everything needs lots of interactions, and everything needs to have more than one use. I find that very, very profound and kind of fun in permaculture, so that you can always do something creative. Your imagination is your only limit. So think of ways that you can make your permaculture design more tolerant, more stable, more creative, and through it your design will be stronger. There is one part in here where he says diversity is related to stability. And that is a really important thing in my mind, that when your design has lots and lots of elements, lots and lots of little interactions, you plant, when we did the companionship planting episode, when you plant something next to something else, it needs to be compatible with the thing that's on the other side of it too. So if you're having tomatoes and then you do onions, next to the onions needs to be something that likes onions as well. And that way the onion is helping more than one thing grow. And every one of these will have multiple connections. It makes the design so much more thoughtful and unique and beautiful, really. Plus, you'll always have a backup for your backup. There's a saying that Jack Spirko, I've heard him talk about when he talks with the guy that does a solar 1, 2, 3, 4 or batteries 1, 2, 3, 4 or something like that. And they always said 1 is none, 2 is 1, and 3 is for me or something like that. So what they mean is if you have one thing and it breaks, you have 0. If you have 2 things and one of them breaks, you have 1. And then if you have 3 of this item and 2, and 1 breaks, you still have the backup for the other one. When you're doing apples or something, you should probably plan to have more than one apple tree. That way, in case that apple tree breaks or something happens to it, that you always have a backup. But not only are you just making sure you have apples, but you're making sure that if for some reason apples is your business and you love selling apples, or that's what you make. Oh, we'll say, for instance, this is one that's in the book. Say, for instance, you sell beef. Well, if one year the beef prices are just in the toilet, you're going to have to do something else to put food on the table. So what you should do is also have a nut orchard that's ready to go, so you can sell nuts, you can sell vegetables, you can sell flowers, cut flowers, you can sell these different enterprises so that when the beef market picks back up, you're ready to go with it. So that you're not, if you put everything into wheat, for instance, and you're just growing wheat like crazy, and that's the only thing you have, if the wheat market tanks, so do your profits for the year. So very important to have a backup in your design. All right, we are going to wrap that up for this episode. Next episode, we're going to talk about energy efficient planning and then zones, which is kind of a fun thing to talk about, which might take our whole time. And I'm going to try to get sectors in with it. So if you want to read up about that, you can learn about the zones. There's 5 zones, 6 if you count zone 0, which is your home. But we're going to talk about energy efficient planning and zones and sectors. If you have any questions about what we talked about, permaculture principles, there are 8 of them, and we covered 2 of them today. We're going to get on to energy efficient planning next week or next time that we get together. So I hope this has helped you on your goals for sustainability, and permaculture is such an amazing force in the move for sustainability, and I highly recommend that you find out as much as you can about it. And it can help you in business, it can help you in life, and help you in the garden. So with that, this has been another episode of the Haven Homestead Podcast, where we learn and grow together on our way to living more sustainable lives. Thanks for listening.